A service of KIBMradio.com, the Internet's home for an all old-time radio.
Unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation, and it shall be a statute forever in your generations.
The Eternal Light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations present The Eternal Light. This public service program comes to you each week under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Today's program, written by Morton Wishengrad, is entitled The Talmud, and features Alexander Scorby as the narrator.
Only one man was created by God as the common ancestor of all, for the sake of the peace of the human race, that one may not say to another, my ancestor was better than thine.
The wisdom of the Talmud. The wisdom of the Talmud on bringing up children.
Do not threaten a child, either punish or forgive.
On an evil tongue.
The tongue of slander kills three: him who slanders, him who is slandered, and him who listens.
On silence.
If silence be good for the wise, how much better for fools?
On true wisdom.
Who is wise? He who can learn from every man. Who is strong? He who can control his passions. Who is rich? He who can feel satisfied with his lot. Who is honored? He who honors mankind.
There is a vast literature filling many volumes bearing the impress of holy men and sweet minds, which has stood like a rampart for nearly 2,000 years. The Hebrew verb was lamed, to teach, and the noun was Talmud, teaching. The Talmud may be divided into two parts: Halacha, law; Agada, legend. The poet Bialik says, Agada is the air we breathe. Halacha is the ground we stand on. The face of Halacha is stern. The face of Agada is gay. Now, from the storehouse of Agada, a parable. On his wanderings to the east, it chanced that Alexander the Great came to the very gates of paradise. He knocked on the sacred portal, and an angel answered.
Who is there?
Alexander,
Alexander? Who is Alexander?
Alexander. You know, the Alexander. Alexander the Great, conqueror of the world.
We know him not. This is the Lord's gate. Only the righteous enter here.
Then I am not admitted?
No.
Please.
Only the righteous enter here.
Well, then give me a sign that I have been to the gates of heaven. Anything at all. I just want it for proof to my wise men.
Very well. Here.
This?
It will do.
What is it?
A fragment of human bone. A fragment from the skull bone that surrounds the human eye. Take it to your wise men, Alexander. Tell them to weigh it. Place the bone in one scale, Alexander.
Very good, Your Majesty.
Well, you're the wise men. What next?
We shall weigh the bone. Place some gold coins in the other scale.
Why, this is ridiculous. Any schoolboy knows gold weighs more than bone.
Do as we say.
Very well. I don't understand. The bone weighs more than the gold.
Add more gold. Still more. And still more.
Alexander, add silver. Now, Alexander, add your scepter and your crown jewels.
There's some trick here. I see it with my own eyes, but I don't believe it.
Alexander, this insignificant fragment of human bone weighs more than your entire treasury.
Is that the meaning?
Not yet, Alexander. The gold and the silver in your crown jewels, where are they? Nearly touching the ceiling, outweighed by a splinter of bone. Now, Alexander, reach to the ground and take some dust in your hand. Do as I say, Your Majesty. A little will suffice.
Well?
Sprinkle the dust on the bone.
Just sprinkle it?
Yes.
As you say. I saw it happen. I must believe it, but I don't believe it. A few grains of dust upset the scale.
Alexander, listen to me. What was the bone? That part of the skull which surrounds the human eye. Nothing will ever satisfy the human eye. Nothing except the dust of earth, which is the grave.
Wise man, is that the whole meaning?
Something more, Alexander. When a child is born, the little hand is clenched, as if the child is saying, "See, the whole world is within my grasp." But when a man dies, the hand is open, and he says, "Everything I have taken from life, I now return. I go empty to the grave, with no earthly possession, save only my good works." Alexander, this is the whole meaning.
The wisdom of the Talmud. On charity.
Better give no charity than to give in such a way as to put a poor man to shame.
On poverty. When food is lacking in the larder, quarrel knocks on the door. On adjusting a quarrel.
A reconciliation without an admission of error on both sides is not a true reconciliation.
On evil disposition.
Bad neighbors count a man's income, not his expenses.
What is legend? A great Talmudist declared,
Legend is only irresponsible history and therefore not necessarily untrue.
thus, from the wisdom of the Talmud, The Legend of Rabbi Samuel. It is written that Rabbi Samuel came to the city of Rome, and there he chanced to find a bracelet which had been lost by the queen. And the queen sent a crier throughout the city.
Whoever returns the queen's bracelet within 30 days shall be rewarded with many bags of gold. But if the bracelet is not returned within 30 days, let him who has found it beware. His head will be cut off.
Come with me, Rabbi Samuel. I will show you the way to the palace.
Thank you, my son.
But whoever returns
the bracelet,
I'm not going to the palace.
But Rabbi Samuel, the reward you will be rich.
I am not going to the palace.
Rabbi Samuel, do you hear? Please come with me and be rich.
My son, I am going home. I shall not go to the palace.
Rabbi Samuel, for the last time you will lose the reward.
I am not going to the palace.
Only 10 days are left. Why endanger your life?
I am not going to the palace.
It is the 30th day, Rabbi Samuel.
Please lose no time.
I am not going to the palace.
The 31st day, Rabbi, be quick. A ship is ready to take you to safety.
No, my son. Today, I go to the palace.
Unbind his arms and let him stand free. You may approach, Rabbi. Why didn't you return this bracelet?
I have returned it, Your Majesty.
Why didn't you bring it yesterday or the day before and claim the reward? Why did you endanger your life?
Your Majesty, to fear a human being is akin to idolatry. In the act of fearing, man begins to worship what he fears. And I may worship only God.
Very nice. But why didn't you return my bracelet sooner?
In order, Your Highness, that you should not say I feared you or hoped for reward. For I fear only the Lord, and He is my reward.
Go in peace, Rabbi Samuel. You are blessed in your God, and He is blessed in you.
Above all things, study. So taught the rabbis. Whether for the sake of learning or for material reasons, study. For whatever the motives that impel you at first, you will very soon love study for its own sake. A scholar's hymn. the Talmud. On sinfulness.
Commit a sin twice, and you will think it is perfectly allowable.
On honest dealing.
Be rather a tail to lions than a head to foxes.
On gluttony.
More people die from overeating than from undernourishment.
On propaganda analysis.
That which a child speaks, he has heard from his father or mother.
A parable of righteousness. It happened, they say, that a warrior king came into a peaceful city, and there he found a judge. And before this judge were brought two men who were engaged in dispute. And the warrior king, it is written, sat beside the judge and listened to the testimony.
Sire, are you comfortable?
Yes, Judge. Proceed with your case.
Let the two men who are in dispute come before us.
We are here.
State the nature of this dispute.
I bought a house from this man.
That he did.
After I bought the house, it was necessary for me to make a few repairs.
That he did.
And while I was repairing a wall, I found a great quantity of emerald and jasper and precious sapphire.
That he did.
Then I offered it back to him.
That he did.
And he wouldn't take it.
Is that the dispute?
It is.
Why didn't you keep what you found?
Well, I bought only the house. Therefore, how can the treasure be mine?
I sold you the house. The treasure belongs to you.
It doesn't.
May you never suffer epilepsy. It does.
May the 10 plagues never be visited on your family, but it belongs to you.
No.
I say yes.
I say no. Shh, be still, both of you. Hear me. You. Do you have a son?
I do.
And you? Do you have a daughter?
I do.
Then hear my decision. You marry your daughter to his son. Let the treasure be a dowry for them. We are happy to have a visitor to this court. Sire, we should be pleased if you would render an opinion on our judgment. Why do you smile, sire? Are such matters settled differently in your country?
Very differently, my dear Judge.
We should be pleased to learn.
Very simple. If this dispute should be brought before me, why, I would imprison this man, imprison that fine fellow, and keep the jewels myself.
I see that I have misjudged you and your country. Tell me, sire, does the sun shine in your land?
Naturally.
And does the rain cause the fruits and the grain to ripen?
Yes, of course.
Tell me also, sire, are there sheep and cows in your land?
Yes.
Oh, I understand now. Surely the sun and the rain come to your land for the sake of the innocent beasts, not for the sake of unjust men.
The Talmud is more than an encyclopedia of law and legend. It is also literature, and literature is written life. And so the sayings and the homilies penetrated the daily life of the Jew until they were as familiar as the accent of speech and as beloved as familiar melody. The Jewish mother in the ghetto cities of Poland did not sing of warriors or feats of strength. The cradle lullaby was, "My child, I will give you raisins and almonds and a small white goat to play with. And when you grow up, study and be good, and perhaps you may even become a rabbi."
Chlorweißes Ziegele, das Ziegele ist geborene Handeln, das wird sein dein Beruf, Rogene Käs mit Mandeln, Schlaf
final Talmudic legend. A blind man and a man without legs were brought before the court of rabbis. Strange to say, these two men had been apprehended in theft, and the man without legs denied his guilt.
You can't punish me. I didn't do the stealing. I can't walk.
Yet you were apprehended in the theft.
But look at me. I can't walk.
Blind man, did you steal the goods in question?
Rabbi, I cannot see.
Bailiff, you will hold these men in another room until we have discussed this case. Take them, bailiff.
This is a difficult case.
It is, Rabbi. Speaking candidly, how could a blind man steal what he can't see? Also, how can a man without legs take what he cannot reach?
It's quite clear from the evidence. The man without legs saw the object of the felony. He climbed on the back of the blind man, and together they stole it.
Even worse. Who was the thief?
I think I know. Ask the bailiff to return with the prisoners.
The prisoners are ready, Rabbi.
Thank you, bailiff. One theft was committed. You committed the theft, blind man.
But I cannot see to commit a theft.
And you, man without legs, you also committed the theft.
But you said it was a single theft.
Then how can both of us be guilty?
Bailiff, raise the man without legs. Good. Now, bailiff, place him on the blind man's back. Good. Hear me. For the purposes of crime, you were one, even as body and soul is one. Therefore, for the purposes of punishment, let you also be one. I may only punish the body. For your souls you will answer in heaven. But hear me further. The Lord has already punished your bodies with blindness and loss of limb. Therefore, it is not fitting that we should add further to your punishment. You may leave this court.
Rabbi,
Yes, blind man?
because you have been merciful to me, who is seeing but cannot see, may he who sees but is not seen be merciful to you.
Heaven and earth I call to be witnesses. Be it pagan or believer, man or woman, man servant or woman servant, according to the actions of every human being does the Holy Spirit rest upon him. The wisdom of the Talmud. We have taken only a leaf from the Talmud and have read it as if by the thin candle taken from a great torch. Out of a collective human experience of 800 years, there was set down in the early centuries of the modern calendar the body of oral tradition which men called the Talmud. Academies were destroyed, teachers were martyred, study was prohibited. Yet, with his last breath, a dying master appointed his disciple, and the law and the learning flowed on in the face of 1,000 deaths. The verb was lamed, to teach, and the noun was Talmud, teaching. And in what emerged, amid the rivers of text and the oceans of commentary, men were able to behold the afterglow of the Bible.
Copies of the script you have just heard, as well as the talk which follows, may be obtained without cost by writing to The Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. And now we present Dr. Joachim Prince, Rabbi of the Temple B'nai Abraham of Newark, New Jersey. Dr. Prince.
You have just listened to a broadcast
which aimed to make an ancient book, the Talmud, which in fact is a library, live again. Admittedly, it dealt only with a few of the thousands of different phases of the gigantic work. Listening to this interpretation, we realize again how great the difficulties are to translate the values of ancient times into the language and the terms of the world of today. Yet the Talmud is not a dead book. For 1,500 years, our people, young and old, made this book the source of their strength. In discussing the ancient laws, even those which were no longer applicable to their daily experience, they forgot the degradations and indignities to which they were subjected. And the glory of the past they lived because their present life was too humiliating to be accepted. The small towns and villages of Eastern Europe, the teaching and learning of the Talmud transformed the dingy little places of Jewish studies into halls of wisdom and faith. Alas, of the people who understood the Talmud, only very few survived. Thousands of teachers and pupils have perished in Europe. Yet the passion and the glow which live in the legal and the poetic, the rational and the mystic, the arguments and the dreams of the thousands of pages which are called the Talmud are part not only of the tradition of the Jew, but of the civilization of the world. And the multi-voiced chorus of this civilization, Judaism, is but one. At many times, each of the many voices is called upon to sing the part of a soloist. The Jewish people in the days of the Bible and Talmud have sung their part. To make it heard for generations to come is a great and sacred task. But to make it part of the whole of the human symphony is a task no less important. In the harmony of all the voices, and in the attempt to make each of them sound clearly so that it may be heard and understood, lies the guarantee for a better world and a greater, more meaningful civilization.
Thank you, Dr. Prince. The Eternal Light is written by Morton Wishengrad. The music was composed and conducted by Morris Momorsky. Kenner Robert H. Siegel was the soloist, and Alexander Scorby the narrator. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Papp. This program has come to you as a public service of the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. For a free copy of today's script, write to The Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. This is the National Broadcasting Company.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation, and it shall be a statute forever in your generation.
The Eternal Light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations present The Eternal Light. This public service program is prepared under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Our story today by Morton Wishengrad is entitled The Unbroken Circle and features Daniel Ocko.
Mr. Muller.
Yes, Captain?
How's that passenger?
Rabbi Bettelheim?
What's his condition?
I thought the doctor told you. Rabbi Bettelheim died this morning.
Mr. Muller, I'll trouble you for the ship's log.
Yes, Captain.
The ink pot, please. Thank you. August 21, 1890. Died today, Rabbi... Mr. Muller, hand me the passenger list.
It's Albert Siegfried Bettelheim, if that's what you want, sir.
Rabbi Albert Siegfried Bettelheim. We bury the man at sea, Mr. Muller.
Captain, we're only 4 days out of Baltimore.
You have my orders, Mr. Muller?
Very good, sir.
Right away, Mr. Muller. What are you waiting for?
Very good, Captain.
Looks to be all, Mr. Muller. Trunk full of books and a small suitcase of clothes.
All right. Get it all together.
Seems a pity we have to bury the rabbi at sea.
I'm only the mate. I'm not the captain.
No offense. Thought you'd want to see this.
What is it?
Diary, I guess.
Dear Rebecca, I've begun this little book on shipboard. I have a presentiment. This is a letter. This isn't a diary.
No harm to read it, Mr. Muller.
Curious, huh?
I liked him. Crew liked him a lot, Mr. Muller.
I have a presentiment, Rebecca, that this will be my last voyage. The doctor says there's every reason for me to live on. But your father has an intuition, Rebecca. I believe in reason, as you know, but being a rabbi, I don't discount intuition. There's a verse in the book of Psalms which says that a man blessed with many children is like a warrior whose quiver is full of arrows. My quiver has been full, and I'm thankful.
I think the ability to love people and children comes from being able to do things for them. Not the big things. The small, everyday things like putting a child to bed, taking her to school for the first time, worrying when she's sick. I think love grows on these minute details. But this isn't why I'm writing. Do you remember when we were in Philadelphia? When my 5 girls and 2 boys insisted on growing bigger every day while my salary was almost invisible? Do you remember how the offer came to me to go to Richmond, Virginia?
You like our congregation, Rabbi Bettelheim.
Richmond's a fine place, sir.
Yes, I should think so. But I don't like this condition you impose.
Why, it's merely routine, Rabbi Bettelheim. All we ask is that you come to Richmond next weekend and deliver a trial sermon.
But why?
Because we have to see how you speak. Just a trial sermon, Rabbi.
Gentlemen, I'm a rabbi. I'm not a prize horse to be let out for either admiration or purchase.
Well, maybe so, but, Rabbi, we still have to know how you speak.
Is it a rabbi you want, or a frock coat stuffed with elocutionary graces?
Well, you needn't be angry about it. We think it's a good offer. We know it's a good congregation.
Rabbi Bettelheim, you think it over.
No, I'm afraid not. I'll stay in Philadelphia. What is it, Esther? Is your mother all right?
No, the pain's come back. Father, it isn't about Mother.
No?
No, Father. Father, are all rich people wicked and all poor people good?
Not necessarily.
Father, wouldn't it be nice if we weren't so poor for a change?
I see the girls have had another meeting.
We have. We think Paul ought to go to college.
I'll find the money somehow.
But that isn't all. Felix is ashamed because all the other boys have new books. His school books are falling apart.
Well?
And I need a new dress.
Do you, Esther?
Crinoline, Father, with a low waist and puffed sleeves. And, Father...
Yes?
When I grow out of a dress, where does it go?
To Minna.
And when Minna grows out of it?
It goes to Rebecca.
And after Rebecca?
It goes to Sid.
Yes. And after Sid, the seams haven't burst and the cloth isn't completely porous. Dress goes to Eva. Father, after Mother took sick, said I was to be responsible for the household.
I understand, Esther. You want me to do something about it. Very well. See if you can find me a clean shirt and a change of socks. It seems that I have an engagement to go to Richmond, Virginia, and deliver a trial sermon.
Mr. Captain wants you on the bridge.
Tell the captain to...
Yes, Mr. Muller?
Never mind. Tell him whatever you want. Now, leave me alone. I'm reading.
But Very good, Mr. Muller.
And so, Rebecca, I went south to Richmond to deliver the trial sermon I said I would never make. The South that I found was not so stricken,
but that the chivalrous traditions of a more prosperous past softened the asperities of impoverished households. I liked the South almost from the beginning, Rebecca. Yet I was distressed by the feeling toward the North. I'm afraid I was rather tactless.
Glad you changed your mind, Rabbi. We'll be at my house in a few minutes.
Richmond looks, well, it's not as I expected it to be.
Not the way it used to be.
No?
It's only 5 years since the war. Rabbi, we've still got a score to settle with the Yankees.
Scars take a long time to heal, don't they?
Some scars don't heal, Rabbi Bettelheim. There isn't a man here who hasn't lost a boy in the war. There isn't a man here who... We've been bled, Rabbi, wiped out, cleaned. The South doesn't forgive easily, and it doesn't forget.
I met a man from Georgia on the train. He talked as you do.
You don't approve, do you, Rabbi Bettelheim?
I can't say I do.
Well, perhaps I ought to give you some advice. Don't talk about the war. Talk about prayer, talk about anything you want, but not the war.
Generally, it's the things people don't want to hear that are most important.
Now, take my advice, Rabbi. Talk about the dietary laws. Tell the congregation it's wrong to mix milk dishes and meat dishes.
I'll do that. But don't you believe that the things that come out of a man's mouth are as important as the things he puts in?
Here's my house, Rabbi. Bettelheim, we want you here in Richmond, but it's up to you to show that you want us. I have an idea you've got a sermon written. I have an idea we may not want to hear it. It's a trial sermon, Rabbi. I thought maybe I ought to remind you.
I take my text from Isaiah. Come, let us reason together. Isaiah does not preach a religion all smoky sacrifice, assiduous worship, and callous ritual. For us, there can be no ignorant, fanatical, superstitious Judaism. Do we pray more or less? That isn't important. Do we love or hate? That is important. For honorable men, prejudice and hate are neither fit companions nor good occupations. A war has been fought between the American states. The war is over. Yet on all sides since my arrival, I have heard nothing but hate for the North and prejudice towards its people. Now I admit that prejudice saves us one of the most painful troubles in the world, the trouble of thinking. With a well-developed set of prejudices, a man can go through life unhampered by mental disturbances. But the text is, come, let us reason together. And we are Jews who find their God and their world in the study of mankind.
I told you to tell the captain that
It isn't the captain, Mr. Muller. One of the passengers wants to see you about the rabbi.
I'm reading. I can't be disturbed.
This passenger's a minister.
You heard me.
Yes, sir.
They were a generous congregation, Rebecca, for they permitted me to become their rabbi. I think those days in Richmond were the happiest we ever spent. Even now, I can see every room in the house
on Marshall Street. And every morning, your mother lying on her bed, listening to the sound of 5 little girls and 2 boys going noisily off to school. Rebecca, do you remember how strange the neighbors thought it was when I also began to carry my books? Even Rabbi Zold thought it was strange. He had come on a visit from Baltimore to see us.
Bettelheim, what are those books for?
It's a long story, Benjamin, and I'll be late for class.
What class?
Oh, I'm nearly finished.
Finished with what?
For 7 generations of my family, the oldest son has been a rabbi or a physician. Well, I've decided to be both. So I've been attending Virginia Medical College.
That's positively fantastic. How long does it take to write a sermon?
A day, sometimes 2.
All right, let's say 1 day of 7. There's another day for the Sabbath. That makes 2 days out of 7.
I'm on the Richmond School Board. That takes nearly a 3rd day.
3 days out of 7.
I'll add it up for you, Benjamin. Bishop Gibbon and some of the other clergymen meet with me for Hebrew lessons. That's a 4th day. I perform marriages, officiate at funerals, visit sick members of the congregation, prepare boys for confirmation, read to the children every night, write an occasional essay, do an occasional book review. Oh, I'm omitting a good deal. But let it go as another 4 days of work.
Bettelheim, that's impossible. That makes 8 days a week.
Yes. And the rest of the week I attend medical school.
You're rather pleased with yourself.
Benjamin, I'm probably the most conceited man you ever met.
Seriously, why this sudden urge for medicine at your age?
I don't really know. I'm supposed to heal people's souls. I suppose now I want to try to heal their bodies.
Mm-hmm. Now on, when you visit the sick, you'll hold the book of Psalms in one hand and count a pulse with the other.
Well, that's something of the idea.
Well, don't let me keep you, Rabbi Bettelheim. Oh, sir, allow me your school books.
Bettelheim, there's a case in the clinic I'd like you to look at.
Yes, of course, Dean.
The woman's a bit touched, Bettelheim. I think she needs a rabbi, not a doctor. She's as regular as trouble in taxes. Bothers us every week with some story of a worm gnawing the inside of a thumb.
A worm?
She insists on it. There's nothing wrong with her thumb.
It gnaws and it gnaws and it gnaws day and night and day. They tell me I'm crazy. $100
doctors tell me I'm crazy, but I'm not crazy. There's a worm in my thumb. It gnaws and it gnaws and it gnaws day and night and day it gnaws. I'm not crazy, am I?
Of course not. Now just bend your head. I'm going to wrap this bandage around your eyes.
Who said it was my eyes? It's my thumb, I tell you.
That's why I want to cover your eyes.
Eh?
It'll be less painful that way.
Painful?
Yes. I'm going to operate on your thumb and take the worm out.
Oh, glory be.
Now let me tie the bandage.
It gnaws and it gnaws and it gnaws day and night and day, and I'm not crazy.
Too tight?
Eh? Oh, no, it isn't tight. But I can't see. Where are you going, Doctor?
Why, you just sit there a moment. I need some instruments. Now you stay there, and I'll be right back.
What to tell you? I wasn't crazy. Everybody said it was crazy, but I wasn't crazy.
Well, there's the worm.
It gnawed and it gnawed and it gnawed day and night and day. Squash it.
Why don't you bring it home? Show it to your neighbors.
Oh, you're right. That'll convince them.
And I'll see that the bandage stays on your thumb until the wound is healed.
You don't think I want another worm to get in, do you? I'll wear this bandage for the rest of my life.
Oh, I wouldn't do that. A week should be enough.
Then I'll wear it a month. Oh, there's the doctor who wouldn't believe me. Look, you pagan, the worm. My worm. No more gnawing. No more. And they said I was crazy.
Bettelheim, what in heaven's name did you do?
Removed a worm.
Impossible. I take my oath there was no worm in her thumb.
Then perhaps I removed a worm from her mind?
What's that?
I blindfolded her.
Well?
Then I went out to the yard.
Forgive me, Bettelheim, but what sort of nonsense is this?
There are peach trees in the yard.
Peach trees.
I lanced the thumb, removed the blindfold, and there on the table for her to see was a worm.
And the worm...
From a spoiled peach, sir.
I must say, Doctor...
Rabbi, sir.
Rabbi?
Yes. A doctor didn't find the worm, sir. A rabbi did.
Well, what does the captain want now?
He wants to know if you're ready.
Tell him I'll be ready in a little while.
Very good, Mr. Muller.
The years that followed were mixed years, weren't they, Rebecca? But mainly I think they were good. Good until your mother died. I was able to help so many people, Rebecca, but I wasn't able
to help her. When she died, I remember how we sat. The children around me, 2 boys and 5 little girls, and all of us lonely and filled with emptiness. It was so hard for you who were small to comprehend that death was a penalty for life.
We're going to bed, Father.
You'll see that Minna brushes her hair.
I always do, Father.
I know that, Esther. Sarah, you help your sister with the little ones.
She will, Father. Don't worry about us.
I wish I knew what to tell you. Your sister Esther has the chief responsibility now. But I place you each in the charge of the other. Guard the one who is younger than you. And always try to keep the circle unbroken. That's all people live for. To keep the circle unbroken.
Come in.
You're Mr. Muller?
That's my name.
One of the sailors told me that Rabbi Bettelheim is to be buried at sea.
You're a minister, aren't you, sir?
Yes, I am. I knew the rabbi rather well. Mr. Muller, can't anything be done with the captain?
I'm afraid not, Reverend.
But we're only 4 days out of Baltimore.
There's no use to talk to the captain, sir.
Would this influence him?
Money?
$400. It's a remarkable thing, isn't it? The passengers barely knew the rabbi, but they raised this sum in less than an hour. Will you give it to the captain?
Not the captain, sir. Not him.
Well, then shall I?
No, sir. You're a good man like the rabbi was. When a good man has to ask a mean man for a favor, well, it's pretty humiliating to be turned down.
You're a good man, Mr. Muller. If you'll allow, I will try to read the Hebrew prayer for Rabbi Bettelheim.
Do you know the language, sir?
He taught me. Strange, isn't it? He taught me the words. He always liked to teach people, all manner of people. I hope I won't do it too badly.
I'll be with you soon, Reverend. There's some reading I have to finish.
Thank you, Mr. Muller.
I had a good deal, Rebecca. There were my books, seeing my children grow, loving Esther for the way she cared for all of you, seeing Felix become a fine doctor,
and sharing his triumph when Monsieur de Lesseps appointed him Surgeon General in Panama, and then crying inside when Felix came home with the tropical fever. I think you knew that when Felix died, I died too. It was very sweet of you, Rebecca, to make me go on this ocean voyage. But I'm an old man now, and the old dare not survive their young. Rebecca, I pray that you and Esther will keep the circle unbroken. I close now with the words of Micah. It hath been told thee, O man, what is good and what the Lord doth require of thee, only to do justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God. God bless you, Rebecca.
Reverend, this is his Bible.
Thank you, Mr. Muller.
We're ready, sir.
I think it is fitting that the words we speak over Albert Bettelheim should be the words of that Talmud which he loved so well. It is the way of the world that when a human being is born, all rejoice. But when he dies, all sorrow. Rather ought the opposite be the case. No one can tell what troubles await the child on its journey into manhood. But when a man has lived and died in peace, all should rejoice, seeing that he has completed his journey and is departing this world with the imperishable crown of a good name. Yiskadal, Yiskadash, Shmei Rabo, Yomo Divru, Chirusei, Yamlich, Malchusei, B'chayachon, Uvyomechon, Uchay, Duchol, Beis Yisroel, Ba'agolo, Uvizman Koriv, Yimru, Omen.
Copies of the script you have just heard may be obtained without cost by writing to the Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. And now we present Rabbi Elias Charles Sidney of Congregation Ahave Shalom of Portland, Oregon, speaking from Portland.
Dear friends, this morning, as we listen to the story of outstanding episodes in the life of Rabbi Albert Bettelheim, time touched yesterday, and we were for fleeting moments in the America of the years following the Civil War. The war had left its trail of blood. There were deep wounds, not too easily healed. But this rabbi, together with other men in the service of God, pleaded for patience, for mutual understanding. Said he, scars take a long time to heal. But even so, come, let us reason together. let us understand that for honorable men, prejudice and hate are neither fit companions nor good occupations. Let us realize that prejudice saves us a painful trouble, the trouble of thinking. Men hearken. True enough, the pain did not disappear in the night, nor was prejudice, with its ugly manifestations, entirely absent. But the union continued one. The circle of our beloved country remained unbroken. What a striking symbol, the unbroken circle. Whether it be the home, the community, the nation, how important it is that each remain unimpaired. In our beloved land, fortunately, this is still possible, for families were not scattered, communities not erased, nor our nation destroyed by the ravages of world war. For us, because of God's compassion, the circle continues unbroken, for parents and children, for neighbors, and for fellow citizens. And yet, we dare not be at ease, for we are part of a world whose circle has been broken, and whose unity, whatever it may have been, is shattered. No people can be free from fear, danger, and destruction until civilization's torn threads are bound together again. No nation will be safe, regardless of its weapons, until all men worthy of mutual association have met together and in good faith. There can be a happy world, and there will be once again, when men create a circle unbreakable by passing circumstance or studied prejudice, a circle whose foundation is an acknowledgement of the fatherhood of God, and whose structure is a recognition of the brotherhood of man.
The Eternal Light is written by Morton Wishengrad. The music is composed by Morris Namorsky and conducted by Milton Katams. Daniel Ocko
was featured as Rabbi Bettelheim. The liturgical music was sung by cantor David Putterman, and the entire production was under the direction of Frank Papp. If you would like a free copy of today's script, write to the Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. This program is a public service of the National Broadcasting Company and comes to you each week at the same time through the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. This is the National Broadcasting Company.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generation.
The Eternal Light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations present The Eternal Light. This public service program is prepared under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Our story today is Morton Wishengrad's dramatization of the life of Lillian Wald. and features Lucille Wall in the title role. The narrator is Len Sterling.
This is the story of a nurse. It is also the story of a word, the Hebrew word which stands equally with truth and equally with justice. The word tzedakah, charity. It is a story of how in the month of March, 1893, there came to the Lower East Side of New York City, to the crowded tenements and the swarming immigrants, the tzedakah of Lillian Wald.
Little boy, can you tell me
Ma!
where...
Hey, Ma!
Little boy, can you tell me where I can find...
Throw me down a piece of bread and butter. Right away, Ma!
Little boy, all I want to know is...
My name's Vasilevsky.
Oh. Well, how do you do? My name is Lillian Wald. Can you tell me where I...
Did you hear me, Ma? Throw me down a piece of bread and butter.
My friend Vasilevsky, will you please direct me to number 13 Essex Street?
Holy cat! Lady, there's a fight down the corner. Ma, never mind a piece of bread and butter. I'm busy.
Please, little boy, I'm a nurse. Now, just tell me where
Stop him, Tony. Come on, stop him.
Number 13 Essex
Do me a
Street.
favor, Noy. Throw something for me.
My friend Vasilevsky, number 13
Ma, I
Essex...
want to pass this saloon. You can't miss it. Hold it for me, Noy.
But what is it? Little boy. Vasilevsky, what did you give me?
Hold it careful, lady. It's me glass eye.
If there be among you a needy man, one of thy brethren, thou shalt surely open thy hand unto him, and shalt surely lend him sufficient for his need in that which he wanteth. Introduction to life. On a day in March 1893, Lillian Wald climbed 5 dingy flights of stairs to assist a woman in the delivery of her 9th child. Lillian Wald climbed down those 5 flights and did not know it, but something had touched her forehead.
Okay. Okay, Wald, say it again. But say it slowly. There's nothing to say, Brewster. Tenements. Bed clothing airing in the windows. Uncovered garbage cans. Children fighting in the streets. Pushcarts. People. Millions of people sick and dying. And so used to darkness that they blink in the sunlight.
So that's where you're going.
That's where, Brewster.
And naturally, Lillian Wald knows that she's doing it.
No. No, I don't, Brewster.
Well, that's good. I hate people who are sure. Why don't you stay at college? You and me, well, we're going to be a couple of the finest lady doctors New York ever saw.
I've already told the dean that I've quit.
Well, if we can't be lady doctors, we're still a couple of middling fair graduate nurses, aren't we?
Brewster, you're not...
I am. If you're going to live down in the Lower East Side, so is Ben Brewster.
Oh, my dear, you don't know what you're in for.
Miss Wald. Elder Brewster of the Mayflower was my ancestor. Stubborn people, these Brewsters.
No, my dear, we can't laugh about it. We mustn't. I was there one day. Just one day. Brewster, did you ever hear the cry of a hungry child? Did you ever see a father trembling because he was half-starved because he'd given his food to his children? Well, I saw it. I delivered a baby in a tenement room where 10 people sleep at night. I saw the furniture they were breaking up for firewood.
I didn't know it was as bad as that.
It's bad. Yes, it's bad and it's wonderful. My dear, the clothes they wore were thin and patched. There wasn't a chair to sit on, but the rotten wood of the floor was scrubbed clean. The clean, rotten floors of the hungry tenements. Brewster, that's why I'm going.
All day, nurse. Like that, he cries all day.
Mrs. Mendelssohn, his temperature is 105 degrees.
I boil the water to drink like you tell me.
Well, I brought some alcohol. Rub him down with that every hour.
Yes, I rub him down. Miss Wald, nighttime when he sleeps, I bend over, my ear to his mouth. He sleeps so still, so terrible still.
Well, Mrs. Mendelson, Miss Brewster and I are only nurses. Your baby needs a doctor.
Yes.
What's wrong, Mrs. Mendelson?
$10 a month, nurse. That's what my man brings in. $6.50 is for rent. $3.50 is for tape.
Well, now, I know a fine doctor. Don't worry about the money.
No, Miss Wald. Not my baby.
But he's a famous specialist, Mrs. Mendelson.
No, Miss Wald. If you say he must be a fine doctor, but many babies he sees, yes? So many babies. This one to the fine doctor, this one will be only a number. A nurse is my baby.
All right. Give him the medicine that I'm leaving. If he spits up the powder, give it to him again.
You will come tomorrow?
Every day.
God bless you. Miss Wald, the people here, all the people. To you and Miss Brewster, we have the feeling... I'm an ignorant woman. I don't say the words good. But the way we feel to you, Miss Wald, it is not something a person can take away in his pocket.
The children wait in the kitchen, like you say, Miss Wald.
That's good, Mr. Babritsky.
Miss Wald, a fine lady like you should not have to do this thing.
Hand me her hairbrush, would you please? I'm afraid I'll need more warm water in the basin.
Not for you to do, Miss Wald.
Mr. Babritsky, sit with your children.
You see, I do not even cry. Who am I that I should cry? Am I the only one? Please, you will let me stay.
All right.
So many times you came. We never thanked you.
Her comb, please.
Yes. You have put curtains up in this room. Nice. Yes, Miss Wald, it's nice.
The basin of water, please. Thank you, Mr. Babritsky. Now, her hair brushed. She'll be clean soon.
Miss Mitzvah.
Hebrew?
Yes, the words are Hebrew.
Oh. When I was a girl, I learned some Hebrew words. I wish I could remember.
Some people remember words, but you do not forget the meaning of the words.
Well, in a few minutes, you can call the children.
They will see their mother clean, her hair combed.
That's good, isn't it?
Yes, it's good. For the last time, they will see her. And because of you, they will remember her clean. It's very good.
Hey, Ma, throw me down a piece of bread and butter. Oh, hello, Noy.
Good morning, Vasilevsky. Don't you have a first name?
Nah.
Oh, of course you have.
Hey, Ma, throw down 2 pieces. One for the Noy. One for her with chicken fat.
No, thank you.
That's all right. Since you came, Ma wraps it in 6 times in paper. I'm learning sanitation.
How does your new eye feel?
Better than the old one. I like the color better. Next week I'm getting a job. I'll pay you back.
Oh, Vasilevsky, you're too little to work.
On Hester Street, nobody's too little to work.
It's a very fine day, eh, Miss Wald, eh, Vasilevsky?
Good morning, Mr. Colucci. Vasilevsky, say good morning to the street cleaner. Come on now.
Hiya, Galuch. How's business? Picking up?
Vasilevsky.
Come on, stop him, Tony. Stop him again, Tony. Here, Lloyd, pull my arm. Leave a little for me, Tony. I got him again. Don't forget to leave a little for me, though.
You mustn't mind him, Mr. Colucci.
Him? He's going to fight with my boy. Tony is mine. They fight together. Good boy.
Yes. Yes, I wish there was a place where they could play instead of street fighting.
Sure. Here, many things bad. Terrible. In Italy, Nois, they say, Colucci, where you go? To promised land, I say.
Yes, I know.
You understand? I am Colucci, street cleaner. In Italy, me, Colucci, I read Dante. Here, I find Dante, l'Inferno.
Per me si va nella città dolente. Per me si va nell'eterno dolore. Per me si va tra la perduta gente. Sì, signorina, la perduta gente. Lost people. Tenement, signorina. No air, no light. Live like animals. Filthy, dirty. Bambini, they die. L'inferno. Excuse, signorina. Better, Colucci, he stopped to talk. Better to take the broom and sweep up.
Better to take the broom and sweep up. The Lower East Side, 1895, and the tzedakah of Lillian Wald. The word tzedakah, the word charity, derived from the word tzedek, justice and righteousness, and the charity of Lillian Wald, even as the righteousness of Isaiah. Is it not to deal thy bread to the hungry, and that thou bring the poor that are cast out to thy house? When thou seest the naked, that thou cover him, and that thou hide not thyself from thine own flesh? For Lillian Wald, there was only the immediate task. And Miss Brewster laughed.
Definition. Lillian Wald is a state of energy, surrounded by street cleaners, children with running noses, pushcart peddlers, street corner loafers, crying babies, and the affection of the East Side.
You're tired, Brewster, aren't you?
I guess so.
Yes, that's what I thought. Look, Brewster, I've got the constitution of a horse. I wake all hours, I climb stairs, and I'm getting fat on it. But not you.
I know. But I hate to quit now.
But you have to. Don't you, Brewster?
Lillian, what are you going to do?
Do you know Jacob Schiff?
He's very rich, isn't he?
Well, I saw a house on Henry Street. 265 Henry Street. Maybe with Mr. Schiff and Mrs. John Crosby Brown and Mrs. Solomon Loeb and some others, maybe I can get that house on Henry Street. And instead of 2 nurses, 10 nurses. Maybe more.
Of course. And perhaps even a backyard for the children to play in. Oh, why don't you talk to Mr. Schiff?
Brewster, where's my hat? I'm on my way. Mr. Schiff, 1.5 million human beings are crowded into an area no bigger than a Kansas farm. There's tuberculosis, typhoid, diphtheria, every disease in the book. Fires break out every day because of the overcrowding. And the death rate is 26 per 1,000.
And you think it's your duty to make it better?
I don't know what duty means. I haven't time for abstractions. I want to do the next thing that has to be done.
You'll wind up with a settlement house.
I want a nursing service, Mr. Schiff.
The Henry Street nurses. I like that. But one thing. There must be no labels. Everyone must be helped.
There are no labels, Mr. Schiff. There are only people.
Lillian Wald, you speak like a Talmudist. That's fine. I'll talk to Mrs. Brown. I think we can manage that house on Henry Street.
In 1895, the house on Henry Street was opened. And almost from the very first day, it was more than a house. Here, Vasilevsky and Tony studied their homework. Here, Mr. Bobritsky brought his children to celebrate the Jewish festival of Sukkot. And here, Frederick, the Negro janitor, opened his folding chairs and made a house of worship for his people.
Miss Wald, ma'am, is it all right for me to set up a meeting house here?
Why, yes, of course, Frederick. What denomination are you? Not that it makes any difference.
Ma'am, I'm ecclesiastical and loose. We just pray to God, that's all. You know, I got me a sermon.
Oh, have you, Frederick?
Yes, ma'am. They'll sit in them chairs and I'll stand up and I'll say, Brethren, and sisters, this is just a simple church meeting house. But we never would have had it without Miss Wald. But it's ours, and I'm glad to see you all here. Now, I didn't ask the President of the United States to come, for he wouldn't have come. I didn't ask the Governor of New York to come, for he wouldn't have come. I didn't ask the Mayor to come, for he's busy with other things. But I did ask the Lord to come. And brothers and sisters, He's here.
Well, Miss Wald, there's a little boy outside who tells me we've got a flourishing settlement house.
That must be Vasilevsky, Mr. Schiff.
Mm-hmm.
I asked him to mail a letter for me. He walked 2 miles and delivered the letter himself. Then he licked the stamp off and gave it back to me.
Well, I expect that people who see you are just ashamed to be anything else but good, Miss Wald. Now, what's the trouble that you have?
The needle workers.
Well, what about them?
Mr. Schiff, I know what they earn. They can't support their families. And now they're talking of a work stoppage. Mr. Schiff, there's going to be starvation here.
That must not happen.
Well, that's why I called you. Now, you know some of the employers. Bring them here. Let's try to talk it over.
Do you know something, Miss Wald?
What, Mr. Schiff?
I've heard some people say that a settlement house is a place to teach poor people to eat with forks, but you seem to be different. You want to put food on the fork. Now, I'll ask a few gentlemen to come, but I don't know how they like it.
Mr. Cooper, don't you see the problem?
Miss Wald, Schiff asked me to come. I came. Now I'm going.
Cooper, you don't lose anything by staying and talking to Miss Wald.
Schiff, you see this watch? Every hour that passes costs me $10.
Oh, that's more than Mr. Babitsky earns in a week.
I don't know the gentleman, Miss Wald. I dare say it's no more than he deserves.
Mr. Cooper? Look out of that window.
What for?
Look out, Mr. Cooper, and tell me what you see.
Is this a game? I see some people.
Good. Now look in this mirror, the one over the table. What do you see there?
What is this nonsense? I see myself, of course.
Of course. The window is glass and the mirror is glass. But just because the mirror is covered with a bit of silver, you stop seeing people and see only yourself.
Now, look here. What can I do about it? Business is business. It's a question of supply and demand.
It's a question of people who haven't enough to live on.
It's supply and demand, Miss Wald. I pay what the industry pays. Still...
Yes?
Well, I know the men get very little. I'll tell you what I'll do.
We're listening, Mr. Cooper.
If what I pay them out of my business pocket isn't enough, well, I'll help with relief out of my charity pocket.
Mr. Cooper, I've been in homes where people pawn their furniture down to the last stick so they can pay us even 5 cents for our service. They insist on paying even a penny because they don't want charity. Not ours and not yours.
Cooper, our whole world falls apart if we forget certain things.
Well, I don't know.
Of course you know.
Do I, Schiff?
A verse in Amos. You read it in English, I read it in Hebrew, and my friend Dolan reads it in Latin. But the labels disappear and the words mean the same. Will two walk together except they have agreed? Will a bird fall in a snare upon the earth where there is no lure for it? That's what this house means. Two people who walk together and are agreed. Please think it over, Cooper. I know you'll change your mind.
Happy years for Lillian Wald, seeing beyond the charity of justice. Now she understood the words of the psalmist. Happy is he that considereth the poor. And this consideration led her through the dingy tenements, past the coughing children playing amid the refuse of the slums, past the squalor of lives ground down by poverty, to the halls of the legislatures. And an American nurse sat modestly in her seat and waited to be heard.
Speaking now for the housing measure, Miss Lillian Wald. Miss Wald, have you any additional statistics?
No, sir. I don't understand statistics. For every number, read a human being. For every tenement on your list, read a place where people live. Read toilets in the backyard. Read sickness. Let's not talk of mankind or of society. I don't know what they mean. Talk of a boy. A boy called Vasilevsky. growing up in the gutter.
Miss Wald, we want facts, not emotion.
You can't squeeze emotion out of facts, sir. I'm presenting facts.
All you've told us is that it isn't good to be poor.
No, sir, I'm telling you it's dangerous to be poor.
To the poor, yes.
To you, sir. In the tenements, consumptive women manufacture cigarettes. They lick the cigarette papers with consumptive lips. You smoke, sir. It seems to me that I'm presenting a fact. And right now, you're suffering from an emotion. Gentlemen, I haven't come here to scare you. It's our religious duty to build homes for our people, to give work to our people, to give them decent pay for that work, and the leisure to discover a world that isn't just work and eat and sleep. I hope you'll excuse me. I've talked too much. A very wise street cleaner I once knew said to me, Colucci talked too much. Better to take the broom and sweep the streets.
You've done a good job. I'm going to do something.
Are you?
Sure. I'll tell my ma to throw you down a piece of bread, butter, and wax paper.
No, Vasilevsky. But if you want to do something for me, just tell me your first name. Please.
My mother was a patriot.
Well, that's fine. What did she call you, Vasilevsky?
Vasilevsky.
No. Your first name.
Don't laugh, Nurse, or I'll mind you. They call me Washington.
Why, that's a wonderful name.
Yeah? Go ahead and say it, I dare you.
Vashington Wasilevsky. Oh, I'm sorry.
See what I mean? Goodbye.
Goodbye, Vasilevsky.
Fresh fish.
Fish close.
Fresh fish.
The slums of Lillian Wald are nearly vanished, but the house on Henry Street still stands. And the nurses still go among the remaining tenements of New York and carry to the sick and to the needy that tzedakah of Lillian Wald. Tzedakah, the Hebrew word for charity, the word that is greater than charity, the word righteousness.
If you would like a free copy of today's script and the talk which follows immediately, write to the Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. And now we present Rita Wallach Morgenthau, Vice President of the Henry Street Settlement and Director of the Neighborhood Playhouse School of the Theater.
Your sketch showed the story of Lillian Wald's great adventure in the history of our city and nation. I want to add a story, which to me also has drama. I like to recall the particular day when a radiant young woman, Lillian Wald, went to see Mrs. Solomon Loeb. When Mrs. Loeb rejoined her children, she said, "I've had an extraordinary visitor. She's either a genius or she is mad. I prefer to think that she's a genius. She wants to have me and your Uncle Jacob, that is Jacob Schiff, help her plan a visiting nurse service for the city." This visit bore rich fruit. Mr. Schiff's interest was aroused, and he gave the first house, 265, which was to be the cornerstone of the Henry Street settlement. There around the fireside often gathered the men and women who were the social planners of their era. Lillian Wald's contribution to the nursing field and the public health movement would alone have given her a distinctive position, but it was her interpretation of conditions that distinguished her and gave Henry Street settlement its significant place in our society. She saw the social implications of every situation, felt the needs of every minority group. Her philosophy was to translate ideas and emotions into action, to sense evil, to stand out against social injustice. The child out of school with a head eczema represented thousands of children who were excluded from school for minor ailments, and was responsible for the introduction of the school nurse into the public school system. The tenement child working at home and in factories was one of the observations which led to the creation of the state and national child labor committees. It was logical that her mind should envisage the Federal Children's Bureau, where the needs of the children of the nation could be studied. Her neighbors lived in squalor and poverty, so better sanitary laws had to be worked for and enforced. At the turn of the century, she was one of the pioneers in tenement house reform. A housing commission came into being. Old tenements have been torn down and replaced with model tenements. There is still much to be done. Out of the post-war planning, there is to be the Lillian Wald project. She was extremely modest in not taking credit for many of the things in which she participated and which she initiated. The first playground in the city of New York was in the background of 265. From that small beginning, other sites for playgrounds had to be found. Henry Street Settlement, under Lillian Wald's leadership, became a centrifugal force. The health program, through the ever-increasing number of visiting nurses and the establishing of rural health nurses. The education and social life of the neighborhood through the clubs and the classes. The arts through the neighborhood playhouse and the music school. Guests and visitors came from all over the world. Every race, every creed, every color, the great and the humble. She showed her wisdom and never-failing judgment when she chose Helen Hall to carry on. Miss Hall has gathered together the threads of the past and woven new patterns for the life of today and tomorrow. Lillian Wald will be cherished in the city, state, and nation, not only for the services she created, but through the lives of those she influenced, and who in their present activities are a living tribute to her memory.
Thank you, Rita Wallach Morgenthau. The Eternal Light is written by Morton Wishengrad. The music was composed by Morris Momorsky and conducted by Milton Catons. Lucia Wall was featured as Lillian Wald, and Len Sterling was the narrator. The Boy was played by Richard Leone, and the liturgical music was sung by cantor David Putterman. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Papp. For a free copy of today's script, write to the Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. This program is a weekly presentation of the National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations, and is brought to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. This is the National Broadcasting Company.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generations. The Eternal Light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations present The Eternal Light. This public service program is prepared under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Our story, by Morton Wishengrad, is entitled The Day of the Shadow. Featured today is Roger de Koven as the chaplain and Peter Capell as Jacob. Listen.
Listen to the silence.
I have come from the land of the day of the shadow. I have seen the naked cities and the dead lips. Someone must speak of this. Someone must speak of the memory of things destroyed. O Lord, my God, and God of my fathers, break open a shaft in the darkness and let me speak, for I have a right to speak. I am the chaplain who stood before the crematorium of Belzin. I buried 23,000 Jews. I have a right to speak. I stood last month in Krakow when liberated Jews were murdered. I have no pretty things to tell you, but I must tell you. God of Israel, forgotten things are not forgotten, and blood does not wash clean from the hands. Someone must speak for the anguish. Someone must speak of the day of the shadow. Someone must bring you the terrible wonder of their hope. This is what I saw with my eyes. But first, I must tell you the things I did not see. But things, nevertheless, that are plain and written down and true. Listen. The adding machines of the statistician. The Jews of Poland. Before and after.
1938. Jewish population of Poland.
3,300,000.
1945.
475,000.
Survivors, 15%.
Dead, 85%. Czechoslovakia. Before and after.
1938. Jewish population of Czechoslovakia.
354,000.
1945.
60,000. Dead, 82%. Lithuania, before and after.
1939. Jewish population of Lithuania.
150,000.
1945.
7,000.
Dead, 95%.
Germany, before and after.
1939. Remaining Jewish population of Germany.
275,000.
1945.
Less than 5,000.
There were some promises Hitler kept.
Romania, 415,000 dead.
Hungary, 110,100 dead.
Austria, 86,000 dead. France, 80,000 dead.
Occupied Russia, 1,250,000 dead.
Let us say the prayer for the dead.
Holland.
Yiskadal.
Belgium.
Yiskadash.
Italy.
Shmei Rabo.
Denmark.
Yom Odevrochirusei.
Yugoslavia.
Yamlich Malchusei.
Estonia.
Bachayachon.
Luxembourg.
Uvyomechon.
Norway.
Uchae.
Greece.
Yochol Beis Yisroel.
Latvia.
Bagolo Uvizman Koril.
Bulgaria.
Yimru. Amen.
My totals show that of a pre-war Jewish population in Europe, 80% are dead, 20% survive.
For the 20% who survive, malnutrition, tuberculosis, secondary anemia, diseases of the cardiovascular system, etc., must all reduce the life expectancy of the survivors.
Inasmuch as the survivors are predominantly males, with in some areas a negligible percentage of females capable of procreation, the birth rate may be expected to reveal a profound imbalance.
In brief, it would appear that the biological prognosis of the remaining Jews of Europe is not favorable.
Diagnosis, etc. Statistics. What good are the figures? Can you comprehend the ghastliness so vast? I cannot. Let the adding machines be still. The cup is empty. The light has gone out. A single child in a single bed, a child dying of fever, that is comprehensible. But 4,750,000 dead of 6 million who once lived, that is beyond comprehension. God is merciful and men do not weep over statistics. Let the numbers and the percentages be for the cost accountant who has no flesh. Let us speak now of the living who are few in number and therefore comprehensible. Let us speak of the man and the child I saw in the American zone of occupation.
They tell me I have to go back to Poland.
Please believe me, Jacob, I tried to stop it.
I understand, Chaplain. Here we are not admitted, and in Poland, once again, there are pogroms. Chaplain, at least admit this boy.
I'll try. But, Jacob, perhaps in Poland he can find his parents.
He does not want to go to Poland. Moshe, speak to the American rabbi. Tell him what you want.
I want to stay here.
But this is a concentration camp.
I want to stay here.
Chaplain, we mustn't make him cry again. Last night we found a place to sleep, but he cried all night. You know why he cried? Tell the chaplain, Moshe.
It was different. I was afraid. I want to stay here.
A woman gave us a bed in her house. He was frightened of the bed.
I want to stay here.
He cried for 3 hours. Chaplain, do you know what I did? I let him sleep on the floor. That was better, but he still cried. So I left the light burning.
I want to stay here.
Then I found some barbed wire, and I put it over the window, just like in the concentration camp. But he cried. So I walked up and down like the sentry. And then he stopped crying, and he slept on the floor.
I want to stay here.
He wants to be back in the concentration camp, Chaplain. He wants to be restored to his normal existence. For him, it is not enough to bring light. First, you must teach him to see. Come, Moshe. Come with me to Poland. Perhaps we shall find the concentration camp.
Jacob Dvoretsky, wait. Wait for me. You come because you pity us? No. There is no progress through pity. I'm glad you said that. We do not pity ourselves. We do not beat our breasts. Moshe, tell the chaplain how your father died.
There is nothing to tell. My father was not the only one. They took 1,000 Jews that day.
Tell him. You saw it. You were there.
Those who had faith, they were not afraid. They stood on line waiting to go into the crematorium. Then my father found a piece of broken glass.
To kill himself?
No, not to kill himself.
But the broken glass, what was that for?
To cut his garment. When someone dies, he told me, you stand up and cut your garment. First he did it, then they all did it. 1,000 men stood on line and cut their garments before they died.
Moshe, were they mourning for themselves? Is that why they did it?
They mourned for those who died without faith. Father said it is a terrible thing to be a martyr and not have a cause. Father was a Jew. He believed he had a cause.
Thank you. I understand. Now, let me go with you.
You there, come off the line.
But they're waiting for food and clothing. This is an unread depot. They have a right to stand on line.
Please come here. I think you shouldn't wait in line.
But you have no right to say that.
Believe me, sir, I'm trying to be their friend. You're Jews. You've suffered a great deal, but if some of these people see you online, they'll get angry. It's for your own good.
You mean it's for their own best interest that they be treated badly?
Yes.
Treat them decently, you'll have another pogrom. It's for their own interest.
He means well, Chaplain. Come, Moshe. I think you will sleep in Poland. If you just close your eyes a little, I think you will be able to see the barbed wire.
Why come to me, Chaplain? There's nothing I can do for these people. There's no discrimination now.
No. The Germans treated us as Jews. The Russians say you must treat us as Poles. And the man in charge of the line says if you treat us as Poles, there will be another pogrom.
Sir, isn't there anything you can do for this man? But to be frank, while there's no discrimination now in Poland, nothing.
Once I had a little business before the Germans invaded Poland.
I wouldn't pursue that if I were you. Take my advice. Some man probably bought it in good faith. If he has to give it up, there will be...
more pogroms.
Well, don't blame me. That's how it is. Well, look, Jacob, take my advice. Leave Poland.
Where shall I go?
Wherever you want to. You're liberated.
Then I should like to go to Palestine. Palestine is home. They say that home is a place where they've got to take you in.
Jacob, I'm afraid that right now, Palestine is impossible.
Then, Chaplain, perhaps you will let me come to America.
It's not up to me. I'm afraid that's impossible.
There are other places you're still free to emigrate.
Very well, I shall go to England.
Oh, no. That's out of the question, of course.
I understand. There are two kinds of countries. Countries where Jews cannot live, and countries where Jews cannot enter.
Well?
You have a suggestion?
Well, I don't know. Why don't you see my superior? Sure, go to see him. You can't lose anything more, can you?
I'm a very busy man.
He's a very hungry man.
I was hungry, too. I'm a Pole. In Poland, you get used to hunger.
And homelessness.
Yes, you get used to homelessness.
This man suffered a great deal. Can't something special be done for him?
Well, if we could establish his political reliability...
He spent 6 years in a concentration camp.
What was your offense?
I refused to stop being a Jew.
Not good enough. We need to prove his political reliability. Only political prisoners receive special treatment. Excuse me, gentlemen, I'm rather busy.
Cable America if they'll let me. Perhaps. But I know what I have to do. Come with me. A woman has just given birth to a child. Things are never so bad but that there isn't someone worse off than you are. Come, Chaplain. Chaplain, she gave birth to a baby. Her man is dead and she has consumption. But here is a baby.
Leave this chocolate bar for her, Jacob. It's all I have now. We'll get her something else later.
Do you hear? They think Israel has died. But Israel dies in childbirth.
What a time to be born in.
Is there a better time? Or another time? What is my strength that I should wait? What is my end that I should be patient? You see, I remember the words of Job.
Why died I not from the womb? Why did I not perish at birth? Why did the knees receive me? And wherefore the breasts that I should suck? For now should I have lain still and been quiet. I should have slept. Then had I been at rest.
As a hidden, untimely birth. As infants that never saw light. shouldn't have done that, Jacob. I saw you leave a piece of bread.
Why not? You gave me 2 pieces. Chaplain, let the pauper help the pauper.
But, Jacob, you can't afford it. You need food.
That's the trouble. Every day the body needs food. But doesn't the conscience also require something?
To lie in the gutter and not to forsake dignity.
You marvel at it? There can be cleanliness in the gutter.
Jacob, what's going to become of you?
I don't know. The pretexts change, but the hatred remains the same.
Chaplain.
Yes?
Jacob told me. Thank you for the chocolate.
How's your baby?
He lives.
Is there anything I can do for you?
Maybe you can find a woman who will nurse him for me. I have no milk.
I'll try.
I shouldn't have had the baby, should I? But my husband, he
Don't try to speak.
It's all right. Jacob, you knew my husband.
Yes. Yes, I knew him.
I think he was a good man. I'm not sure. He wasn't a soldier. He wasn't shot on the battlefield. They didn't even kill him in hot blood. He stood on the line and waited his turn. They processed him. Chaplain, if my baby lives, his father died a Jew. He must live a Jew.
Chaplain, you will go back and tell them that there is still a remnant.
Yes, Jacob. I'll go back and tell them.
Tell them we hold fast. Tell them that the normalcy of the Jew in the European diaspora is not the inferior category of the tolerated Jew, but the Jew who holds his faith like a Torah.
I wish you could tell them yourself.
It can't be. I stay here and I wait. It's hard to wait. The synagogue's down. The yeshiva's broken. The books torn. Tell them not to forget the books.
But the food comes first, Jacob, and you must not give away your own food.
I'll try not to do it again, but that is how I pay for the grave of Moshe's father. The good deed to pay for blood.
You mean that, Jacob, don't you?
Yes. Sometimes in the middle of the night I wake up screaming, and I'm ashamed. I think to myself, Jacob Voretsky, there is a Judaism to build. And Jacob Voretsky, you are only a liberated Jew without a home. But that's foolish. One man can't build a whole world. But one man can give away a piece of bread. I know what has to be done now. The small things are what count. You teach a little boy how to study, and you build a world. When a man falls down, you take his hand and you help him up, and you build a world. You stay honest, and you don't sell your heart, and you build a world. Such small ways, Chaplain. And that's all there is to it. I must have been a fool not to have known it before.
Dvoretsky, I put Job's question to you. Dost thou still hold fast to thine integrity? Blaspheme God and die. The miracle of Poland. They held fast to their integrity. They waited for life. And there came darkness. In the fields they found thistles upon the wheat and weeds among the barley. For them there was no green thing. For them an extermination was determined. The words of solace they received were from the tongue of the stammerer. And yet they held fast. Jacob Dvoretsky, teach me. There is a stubbornness of cowardice and a stubbornness of faith. And one is true to the surface, and one is true to the depths. God of Israel, let me speak in the anguish of my spirit of the day of the shadow. They held fast. Last month, I stood where the day was a shadow. Last month, I stood amid the obscenity of annihilation. Between Poland and America, how many miles is it? How many miles between the pity that does not heal the bruise and the terrible harvest of the red fruit? How many miles between the normalcy of starvation and the dreadful normalcy of the guilt obsession? Now I am home, and I know neither the distance, nor the dimension, nor the answer. I know only this. I have seen the naked cities. I have listened to the silence of the dead lips. Where is the shaft of light to break open the day of the shadow? And I know the surface must be true to the depths. Jacob Dvoretsky, the tree which is cut down must be planted again. Jacob Dvoretsky, stand fast where Israel has died in childbirth, for the seed is in the ground. Yea, thou shalt be steadfast, and thou shalt not fear, for thou shalt forget thy misery. Thou shalt remember it as waters that are passed away, and thy life shall be clearer than the noonday. Though there be darkness, it shall be as the morning.
Copies of the script you have just heard may be obtained without cost by writing to The Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York, 27 New York. And now we present Rabbi William G. Brada of Temple Bethel, Providence, Rhode Island. Speaking to you from Providence, Rabbi Brada.
Friends, you and I have listened just now to the stirring tale of Jacob Dvoretsky, an unusual name for an unusual man, one who survived both in spirit and in flesh the ordeal of the concentration camp. The name Dvoretsky carries great meaning. Translated freely from the Russian, it means the man from God's court. That name gives the key to a character which at all times can declare that a day in thy courts is better than 1,000 elsewhere. The Jacob Dvoretsky, the courtiers of God, as it were, are the strongest links in the continuity of our people, in their godly courts, in their religious schools, their yeshivas, their houses of prayer. They learned from childhood the importance of simple things, and armed with these, with a smile, with a blessing, with a piece of bread, with a verse from the Bible, they walked through lands and years of terror. Though their feet were shackled, their spirits remembered the rhythm of the courts of God where they grew up. Though they witnessed ghastly doings, their reservoirs of faith and courage remained pure and untouched. Thus they walked under the lash, in the shadow of the gallows, in the very stench of death, and they did not flinch. Because of this extraordinary valor, which even the least of the Jacob Dvoretskys possessed, the demonic scheme of the adversary miscarried, and the heroic remnant survives to bear witness, to right wrongs, to rear anew homes, houses for worship, and chambers for study, where new generations will be born, to learn once again that a day in thy courts is better than 1,000 elsewhere. We in American Israel are seeking to provide the Jacob Dvoretskys with bread, clothing, and shelter. They are daily providing us with magnificent examples how men may at all times walk with solemn dignity and quiet confidence, and how we also may transmute the day of the shadow into a day of triumph.
Thank you, Rabbi Brother. The Eternal Light is written by Morton Wishengrad. The music was composed by Morris Momorsky and conducted by Milton Catons. Roger de Koven was featured as the chaplain and Peter Capell as Jacob. The liturgical music was sung by cantor David Putterman, and the entire production was under the direction of Frank Papp. If you would like a free copy of today's script, write to the Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. This program is a public service of the National Broadcasting Company and comes to you each week at the same time through the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generation.
The Eternal Light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations present The Eternal Light. This public service program comes to you under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Following the dramatization, you will hear a brief talk by Dr. Solomon Grazel, President of the Jewish Book Council of America. Today's story, written by Morton Wishengrad, deals with the struggle to remove civil and political disabilities in the state of Maryland during the second decade of the last century. Ian McAllister is featured in the role of Thomas Kennedy.
Blessed art thou, O Lord, who hast kept us in life and sustained us unto this day. A prayer of thanksgiving. Offer thanksgiving on this day for the uniqueness of America. Offer thanksgiving for the nameless heroes who took the words of the fine declarations and believed them and fought to make the word a deed. Offer thanksgiving to the memory of men who were not ashamed to be good, who sought no refuge in cynicism, who did not fear to stand alone. Listen, this is your story. (1818), the House of Delegates, Annapolis, Maryland. The clerk of the House.
Mr. Speaker, I have the credentials of the elected member from Washington County.
Are they in order, Mr. Clerk?
They are, Mr. Speaker.
His name, if you please.
The Honorable Thomas Kennedy.
Come forward, Mr. Kennedy, and take the oath.
Do you, Thomas Kennedy, solemnly swear or affirm that you will protect and defend the Constitution of the state of Maryland?
I do.
Upon the true faith of a Christian?
Complete the oath, Mr. Kennedy.
I should like to, Mr. Speaker, but I'm rather troubled by the form of the oath.
I was not aware that there is anything in the oath to cause difficulty. Mr. Clerk, are you troubled?
Not at all, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed, then. Unless Mr. Kennedy is not a Christian.
Mr. Speaker, I was born in Scotland. The section which I was bred is the Presbyterian Church. I have no doubt a person may get to heaven that way.
We are gratified to hear you say that, Mr. Kennedy. But let us get on with the oath, shall we?
Mr. Speaker, Article 6 of the Constitution declares, no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any public office or public trust under the United States.
You are asked to uphold the Constitution of the state of Maryland. I might inform the gentleman from Washington County that the Constitution of Maryland is older than the Constitution of the United States.
This oath of office makes it impossible for citizens who are not Christian to be seated here.
Mr. Kennedy, I was not aware that Jews and Mohammedans are numerous in your constituency.
Sir, is it the custom of this body to insult new delegates?
Not at all, Mr. Kennedy. I was merely making an observation.
There is not a single Jew resident in Washington County. In fact, I have not met a single Jew in Maryland.
Then in heaven's name, take the oath and be done.
Exactly, Mr. Kennedy. Take the oath and be done.
I cannot, Mr. Speaker.
Why not?
Because I'm an American and a Christian. Article 6, Mr. Speaker, of the United States Constitution, Chapter 25, verse 10 of the third book of the Bible. Proclaim liberty throughout all the land unto all the inhabitants thereof.
Mr. Kennedy, I ask you again, do you swear to the oath?
You ask me to hold my hand on the Bible that declares the oath to be false and injurious.
Mr. Clerk, you will proceed with the next order of business. Mr. Kennedy does not take the oath. Mr. Kennedy is not a member of this legislature.
incident in the House of Delegates in the town of Annapolis, Maryland, in the year 1818. But an incident that was not closed. It could not be closed. For a man called Jefferson had said, "We are not to expect to be translated from despotism to liberty in a featherbed." Jefferson said it, and Thomas Kennedy was of the party of Jefferson. The incident was not closed. Now Thomas Kennedy received a visitor.
The name is Sullivan, Mr. Kennedy. Jeremiah T. Sullivan.
And what can I do for you, sir?
Go back to the House of Delegates and take the oath.
Mr. Sullivan, I don't know why you came. I don't know who sent you, but I'll trouble you to mind your own business.
Spoken like a man. A fine temper like that, and you're not Irish. What a pity. You asked me to mind my own business.
I do, Mr. Sullivan.
This is my business. It wasn't so many years ago a Catholic couldn't sit in the House of Delegates. Did you know that now?
Yes, I do. What do you think I'm trying to do?
Kennedy, in Maryland before the Revolution, a Catholic, because he was a Catholic, paid twice the land tax. A Catholic servant from Ireland paid a tax of 20 shillings. If a Catholic man died, the law said that his children could be taken from the widow. You see, Mr. Kennedy, I'm minding my own business now.
It's not altogether clear, Mr. Sullivan.
I'm coming to the point. Why did it take so many years to change the law?
You tell me.
I'll do that. Because laws are written and changed in the legislature. You can't change a law when you don't sit in the legislature.
That's why you want me to take the oath?
That's why.
There's good reason, Mr. Sullivan.
Think it over.
All right, Mr. Sullivan. I'll think it over.
Shake your hand now. One more thing.
Yes, Sullivan.
Kennedy. That's a fine name.
Now, thank you.
You're sure now?
Sure. Sure of what?
Was it Scotland you really came from and not Ireland? Kennedy, are you sure?
Proceed, Mr. Clerk.
Do you, Thomas Kennedy, solemnly swear or affirm that you will protect and defend the Constitution of the state of Maryland?
I do.
Upon the true faith of a Christian?
Upon the true faith of a Christian.
I congratulate you, Mr. Kennedy, on your good sense.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, you have the floor.
I offer a resolution.
What is your resolution, Mr. Kennedy?
I offer a resolution calling for the appointment of a committee to consider placing all citizens on an equal footing in this state.
Order! The gentleman from Washington County is entirely out of order.
If Mr. Kennedy doesn't like Maryland, let him return to Scotland. The question is out of order.
Mr. Speaker, I ask you to put the resolution before the House.
Mr. Speaker, I move we adjourn.
I protest, sir. There is a question before the House. The motion to adjourn is out of order.
Mr. Kennedy, you are new in this body and entitled to your ignorance. I must inform you that a motion to adjourn is never out of order.
I rise on a point of special privilege.
What is your point, Mr. Breckenridge?
I confess to a sense of shame. Mr. Speaker, gentlemen of the House of Delegates, we may abuse Mr. Kennedy here, but we abuse ourselves more. This is the legislature of the people of Maryland. Mr. Kennedy is entitled to an honorable hearing. He's entitled to our courtesy. He's entitled to every privilege of this legislature. I appeal to your sense of decency.
Mr. Speaker, motion to adjourn.
The motion is to adjourn. All those in favor will say aye.
Aye.
Only 3 for adjournment. Apparently, there is no need to call for the negative. The House of Delegates remains in session. Mr. Clerk, the roll call on the resolution. The resolution carried. A first small step in a Maryland incident. A committee of 3 was appointed to report.
On December the 9th, 1818, Thomas Kennedy rose before the House of Delegates.
Your committee introduces a bill entitled, An Act to Extend to Those Professing the Jewish Religion the Same Rights and Privileges that are enjoyed by Christians.
Incident in the Maryland legislature. And an incident which was not closed. The bill was defeated. Yes, Jefferson was right. We are not to expect to be translated from despotism to liberty in a feather bed. During the session of the legislature in the following year, once again the bill was introduced. And once again it was defeated. Kennedy and Breckinridge continued the work of the committee.
Mr. Kennedy, I believe you've already met Mr. Sullivan.
He's practically married to me, Mr. Breckinridge. And he can't forgive me because I'm not somebody else's wife.
Will you be seated, sir?
That I will.
Sullivan, Mr. Breckinridge tells me you're not happy over the bill I've introduced.
You're right there. I don't like it.
You're a hard man to please, Sullivan.
It's the Dublin blood in me.
I'm trying to remove the religious test, Sullivan. I thought that was what we both wanted.
Sure. But your bill does not remove the religious test.
What in heaven's name does it do?
It substitutes tolerance for intolerance.
Good Lord, and is there anything wrong with that?
Sure.
How?
Tolerance is no virtue, Mr. Kennedy. A man tolerates the other fellow when he thinks the other fellow is less than he. I think tolerance is a rotten word.
Yes. You have something there, Sullivan.
The Maryland legislature can't give me permission to worship God as a Catholic. I'd spit clean in their eye. They can't give Breckinridge here permission to worship as an Episcopalian. And they can't give my good friend Captain Reuben Etting permission to worship as a Jew. Because when did the Maryland legislature last speak to God?
You're absolutely right, Sullivan. What do you propose?
Take out the word Jew from your bill. Put the word all in its place.
Breckinridge, do you agree?
You better go slow, Kennedy. You'll be attacked as irreligious.
I won't let them. Religion is in my bones. It's in the Declaration of Independence. It's in the American Constitution. Breckinridge, I'm a religious man. Government without the spirit of religion is like a bird without wings. But by heaven, we're not going to allow the legislature to make a political club out of religion.
Kennedy, now don't deceive a believing man. Are you sure it's Scotland you come from?
Thomas Kennedy amended his bill. For the third time, the bill came before the House of Delegates. And for the third time, the bill was defeated. Then Thomas Kennedy returned to Washington County to stand for re-election. Now, he was a marked man.
I tell you, Tom Kennedy wants to strike from our laws the last protection of true religion. This bill is the spawn of the devil. That's what it is. Where did he come from? Scotland. A country flooded with infidels. And I tell you where he's not going. He's not going back to the legislature.
They're good for you, Galloway. Give him both barrels.
I tell the people of Washington County, I tell you, Tom Kennedy is half Jew. And the other half ain't Christian. Shut up, Galloway.
Hey, who's that?
Shucks, I don't mind that. He's Kennedy's man. And what do you expect from a pig but a grunt? He's not my man, Galloway.
I don't need anyone to talk for me. Mr. Gabby, you can put down that shotgun. I've got no weapons on me. You too, Joe Merrick. It seems to me our state has been advancing backwards for a long time. which seem to get 1 day older and 2 days worse.
Kennedy, I don't like you, and I don't like your bill.
Mr. Galloway, that's your inalienable right as an American.
Now, get out.
I'll say what I have to first.
I say get out. Let him talk, Galloway.
Thank you. I want you to understand that I'm against the religious test because I'm an American. That test reminds me that I'm a Protestant and that another man is a Catholic. That test divides us. That test justifies the Massachusetts Puritans who drove out the Quakers. That test justifies the Virginia bigots who drove out the Catholics.
Are you done, Mr. Kennedy?
No, I'm not done. Galloway, go home and pick up your Bible and show me one word in it that justifies the proscription of any man because of his religious sentiment.
Kennedy, don't tell me to read the Bible.
Galloway, at Christmas time you say, goodwill to men. To what men? Galloway, it's either to all men or to no men.
Kennedy, now, we've had enough.
No, you haven't. You can't take a religion which flames with justice and make it an excuse for bigotry. You can't use it to cover the narrowness of your own heart. All right, Galloway, it's your meeting.
Washington County voted, and Thomas Kennedy was defeated for re-election. But in the other counties of Maryland, there were also changes. From Frederick County and Montgomery, from Carroll and Prince George counties, from Calvert and St. Mary's and Dorchester counties, there were also new faces in the House of Delegates. For 1 year, Thomas Kennedy remained at home, and he carried the fight to his own constituency.
Kennedy, there's a new speaker in the House. They say he wants you back.
I'll be back. Come on, we've got work. I read to you from the First Amendment of the United States Constitution. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof.
Kennedy, what's Jefferson got to do with it?
Listen. Our civil rights have no dependence on our religious profession any more than our opinions in physics or geometry. People of Washington County, we've got to prove to the whole world that it's wrong for men to have only enough religion to hate.
The citizens of Washington County returned Thomas Kennedy to the Maryland legislature. Once again, he stood before the Speaker's table in the House of Delegates.
I speak as an American citizen. I beg leave only to remind this House that the honors of office in our republic are not assumed, but conferred, not usurped, but bestowed by popular confidence. I say to you that to disqualify any class of citizens is for the people to disqualify themselves. This same principle of disqualification stains nations, tramples the charities of life, places arms in the hands of men for bloody war.
Mr. Kennedy, it is not expedient to make innovations in the Constitution of Maryland.
Sir, that is the language of prejudice. The American people were an innovation. The sun that shines each day is each day's innovation.
I am not convinced. Mr. Speaker, I say to the gentleman from Washington County that no man has a right to complain of being excluded from office if he does not conform to the prevailing religious sentiment of the state.
Answer that, Kennedy.
I do. What sort of God do you worship? Is the God you worship a fool? Does the smell of your persecution rise up to him as incense? I tell you again, opinion should be answered by opinion. Religion is the opinion of a man's conscience. The interposition of the state in matters of opinion is improper.
All right, Kennedy. Suppose we do exercise a compulsion. It's mild enough. We don't molest anyone.
It's not the degree of compulsion, sir, which renders it improper. The act of interposing your authority is improper. Religion is a matter between man and his God. Gentlemen, this is the right of conscience, which is so badly understood throughout the world, and which I regret to say is so little understood here.
Gentlemen, this debate has taken up too much of the legislature's time.
Sir, the only way to close the debate is to vote for the bill.
Call the question, Mr. Speaker.
Gentlemen, the bill before the House of Delegates is to amend the Constitution by extending to all the citizens of Maryland the same civil rights and religious privileges that were enjoyed by all under the Constitution of the United States. Mr. Clerk, you may proceed with the roll call. Gentlemen, the question. Shall we pass the bill?
Harris? No. Gant?
No.
Garner?
No.
Grubb? No. Dalrymple? Yes. Hewlett? No. Hilger? Yes. Kennedy? Yes. Banning? No. Hawkins? Yes. Welsh? Yes. Millard? Yes. Wick? Yes. Estep? Yes. Brooke? Yes. Smith? Yes. Chapman? Yes. Thames? Yes. Rogerson? Yes.
February 26, 1826. Thomas Kennedy's bill carried by the Maryland House of Delegates. Incident in the history of the American people. But the incident is not closed. The incident never closes. Every generation must make its own fight for freedom. Every generation in every age.
Lord, who shall dwell in thy tabernacle? Who shall ascend into the hill of the Lord? Even he that hath clean hands and a pure heart, he shall receive the blessing from the Lord.
A prayer of thanksgiving. Blessed art thou, O Lord, who hast kept us in life and sustained us unto this day. Yes, a prayer of thanksgiving.
Copies of the script you have just heard and the talk which immediately follows may be obtained free of cost by writing to the Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York, 27, New York. And now we present Dr. Solomon Grazel, President of the Jewish Book Council of America, speaking from Philadelphia.
Dramatized, depicts America in one of its heroic moments. From Thomas Jefferson presenting the Declaration of Independence to Franklin D. Roosevelt calling for the attainment of the four freedoms, the history of our nation is full of such occasions which have made America what it is. Each of these moments in the story of our people was different in motivation and immediate aim, but all had the same ultimate goal, the attainment of a better, nobler, and freer life, a stronger, more united, happier people, a more idealistic, liberty-loving, hope-inspiring America. It could not well be otherwise. The men and women who came here from every part of the world brought an adventurous spirit and a soaring imagination, else they would not have uprooted themselves from their old homes. All of them sought opportunities for personal happiness denied them in the place of their birth. They found here a land blessed with milk and honey, a country as broad as their hopes and as beautiful as their fairest dreams. Out of all this, a nation was born. Not only the great, rich, and powerful America, but also the magnificent ideal we call Americanism, an essential part of which has been the striving after unity and human brotherhood as against group conflicts and prejudices. Some of those who came here unfortunately brought their prejudices along with their hopes, prejudices which were part of their old restricted life, prejudices based on fears or selfishness or narrow intellectual horizons or blind sectarian domination. Against these, the Kennedys and the Sullivans of every generation, sooner or later, armed with Americanism, won the day. Our generation must continue the struggle, for liberty cannot stand still. It either expands or it withers, and prejudice is a treacherous enemy. It is either fought unremittingly or it returns and attacks with redoubled fury. Even our battle for political freedom is not yet fully won, since there are still lingering prejudices founded on color and creed. It would, however, be a mistake to assume that the struggle for true Americanism need be carried on only in legislative halls. Un-American prejudice must be fought wherever it is met, in offices and factories, in schools and in homes and in churches, by word of mouth and by the pen through instruction and personal example. None dare be neutral in this fight for the soul of America. At this Thanksgiving season, the heart of every American is filled with gratitude, especially for the victory which has been granted America against those forces in the world which were the incarnation of inhuman prejudice in its ugliest form. It is well at this time to give thought to the future and pray that we never forget the divine gifts which have molded America, the many strains and faiths which have cooperated in its physical building, and the high ideals to which it is dedicated forever.
The Eternal Light is written by Morton Wishengrad. The music was composed by Morris Momorsky and conducted by Milton Catons. Featured as Thomas Kennedy was Ian McAllister. Cantor David Putterman sang the liturgical music, and the entire production was under the direction of Frank Pack. This is the National Broadcasting Company.
Spake unto Moses, saying, Command the children of Israel that they bring unto thee pure oil olive, beaten for the light, to cause the lamps to burn continually in the tabernacle of the congregation. And it shall be a statute forever in your generation.
The Eternal Light. The National Broadcasting Company and its affiliated independent stations present The Eternal Light. This public service program is brought to you each week under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Our drama today is Morton Wishengrad's The Lantern in the Inferno, a story of a modern Maccabee. Featured are Charlotte Holland and Carl Malden.
saves a human life is as one who saves the entire world. This is the story of a Palestinian girl named Hannah Senish, who saved the world. And if she died in that act, let the Hebrew words, Kiddush Hashem, be said of her. For she died for the sanctification of God's name. There is a gloomy dungeon beneath the ancient prison of the Hungarian city of Budapest. At the end of May 1945, Lieutenant Hardy of British intelligence led a squad of men to the old dungeon. The heavy door swung open, and into the light stumbled the liberated scarecrows, animate lumps of protoplasm in the shape of human beings. When they were assembled, Lieutenant Hardy called the roll, and the protoplasm answered.
Penina Yardeni.
Here?
Zvi Marcus.
Yes.
Shalomo Dicta.
Here.
David Ben Giora.
Here.
Hannah Senish. Hannah Senish. Make another of it, Quimby.
Yes, sir.
Dove Nathanson. Dove Nathanson.
Dove. The lieutenant called your name.
Dove Nathanson.
264. 265.
Dove.
266.
Please, Dove.
167.
Quimby, get a doctor for this man.
Right away, sir.
Dove. Listen to me. It's Penina.
107.
Please stop counting.
71.
You're among friends now.
72.
Dove, you're no longer in a dungeon. Please, Dove.
What is he counting?
75.
Why does he do that?
76.
Drops of water, Lieutenant.
7.
He's counting the drops of water falling from the ceiling of the dungeon.
80. 81. 82. 83. 84. 85. 86. 87. 88. 89. 90. I mustn't lose count. 93, 94. I mustn't lose count. Dove, you're going mad. Dove, you mustn't lose count. Dripping. Hannah Senish. Can you hear it? From where you are. Can you hear it, Hannah? Hannah, this is Budapest. Palestine is so far away. Very far. I wonder, in our cooperative colony at Sidotiam, do they remember you? 304, 5, 6. Only a year ago, Hannah, from the cooperative of Sidotiam, we could see the Mediterranean. It was your 20th birthday. And instead of celebrating, you and I, and Penina and Zvi and the others, we sat and listened to the British officer who had come that morning.
Please follow me on the map. This is Yugoslavia. In this area here, behind the enemy lines, groups of partisan fighters are organized. They need immediate reinforcements.
Sir, I am Hannah Senish. The others have asked me to speak for them.
That's right, sir.
Suppose we volunteer. How do we reach Yugoslavia?
By parachute. Make no mistake about it, this is a dangerous mission. You'll be parachuted down in the dead of night.
We understand, sir. Is our mission limited to specific objectives, sir?
Yes and no. The specific purpose is to dynamite and destroy 3 centers of enemy communications. But you'll also be expected to do everything possible to disrupt the enemy's rear and molest his transport.
One more question, sir.
Yes?
Some of us here are anxious to rescue Jewish children who are trapped in Yugoslavia and Hungary.
This mission is confined to Yugoslavia.
I understand, sir. But Hungary borders on Yugoslavia.
Yes, it does.
And we think that while we are in Yugoslavia, it may be possible to organize rescue stations for children right up to the Hungarian border.
Well, if your work does not interfere with the primary purpose of this mission, by all means. Seems to me that we're all trying to save lives.
Zvi?
All right, Hannah.
Dove?
I'll go along.
Penina? I think we all agree.
Yes, sure, Hannah.
17 men, sir. and 3 women.
Very good. Tomorrow, after sunrise, 2 lorries will be waiting here. Take no clothing, only what you wear. I shall expect you in Cairo Tuesday morning.
Hannah, the lorries are waiting. Speed will have to hurry the morning service.
Let him finish, Dolph.
Whether they abide on the sea or the dry land, may the Lord have mercy upon them and bring them forth from trouble to enlargement, from darkness to light, and from subjection to redemption. Now, speedily, at a near time. Let us say amen.
Amen.
Hannah, we forgot something.
Have you, Dolph? I'm sure we haven't forgotten anything.
No, we did. Happy birthday, Hannah. $308, 9, 10. Happy birthday, Hannah Finish. Happy birthday. Listen, do you hear water dripping? Drip, 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 like a clock ticking, like a heart beating. 316. Hannah, this is Budapest. We went to join the partisans and to save the children. But this is Budapest. And before Budapest, so long before, we were in Egypt to be trained.
Better, Hannah, much better. But squeeze the trigger. Squeeze, don't pull.
No fuse?
Right.
Primer detonator.
Right.
Booster charge?
Right.
Arming wire, suspension lock.
Good enough.
All clear this end!
All clear from here. Heads down. Heads down, everyone. Jumped in daylight. Now jump into darkness. Ready, Hannah?
Ready, sir.
Don't freeze to the ripcord. Jump!
Zion Hamati. Zion undefiled. Why don't you sing, Dolph?
I'd rather watch you, Hannah.
Tomorrow we may be in Yugoslavia.
Uh-huh. Your nose is twitching again. The tip of your nose.
I wonder how many children we can bring up.
You know, Hannah, if your eyes were just the merest bit larger...
Dolph, we've got to find the children.
Hannah, you're not pretty, you know. Not really, that is.
I can't get it out of my mind. It's an obsession.
I'm sorry.
Maybe we can bring them back to Six.
Maybe.
Put them on the land. Teach them to farm. Watch them grow. See them become normal men and women.
That's all you want, Hannah?
Right now? Yes. Right now, that's all I want.
All right.
I'm sorry, Dolph. When we come back from Yugoslavia, there'll be time to talk of other things.
Sure, all right.
Don't be needy, Dolph. There's time. Besides, tomorrow we'll be in Yugoslavia.
Always time, Hannah. Always time for 337. 38. That night the planes took off from Egypt. Our clothes were black, parachutes black, black night, darkness, And the Lord said, stretch out thy hand toward heaven that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt. And Moses stretched forth his hand, and there was 349 drops of water falling, 17 men, 3 women, falling through the darkness into the night of Yugoslavia.
There it is.
Wait. We must be sure.
All right, Tree, answer him.
Shlomo. David, Benja. Ready? Right.
See anyone?
Never greet a stranger in the night, for he may be a demon.
What's that?
The line from the Talmud.
Why doesn't he come?
Answer him, Tree.
Hello.
Hello. We're glad to see you.
How many?
20 of us.
That's good. We've got mules waiting below.
Friend, are there any Jewish children here?
No children, only Nazis. Come on, we have work.
Not yet, Tree. Not yet. Not too soon. Wait. You look foolish on the mule. You're bigger than he is, though.
A mule is not a he. He's an it.
You still look foolish.
You ought to be used to it. Anna, how many weeks have we been riding these Yugoslav taxi cabs?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure of anything anymore. We come to destroy and to save. It's confusing.
We've done all right.
I hope so, Dolph. It's a queer world. We're like people carrying a lantern into an inferno, and we're helping to build the inferno. Dolph, we've got to see the children. And how can we see them when we create the fire that blinds our eyes?
A lantern in the Inferno, 362, and three primary objectives. That's what the British officer said, Hannah, didn't he? 3 explosions, primary mission completed. Only where were the children? Where were the 379, 80, 81? So we went north toward the Hungarian border, and Nina and Zvi, and Hannah and I, north, looking for the children.
Zvi, what did you find out?
Something. Across the Hungarian border, the city of Teged. 30 Jewish children are hidden there.
What else, Zvi?
Spread your map, Penny, huh?
Right here.
Look, this is where we are, north of Subotica. Well, if we can get the children to Subotica, we can make contact with the partisans. There are relay stations here at Topola, Sombor, Zogobran, and then due west right to the coast. Once we get the children to the coast, fishing boats will take them out. But the big job is in Teged.
What do you think, Dolph?
How do we work past the border guard?
That's the rub. Nazi patrols there are thicker than bedbugs. We'll have to split up.
I don't like that, Hannah.
I don't either. But it's better that way. If one of us is stopped, at least the others will get through.
It's the only sensible thing.
If we get through to Teged, where do we meet?
There's a big church off the main square. We meet at the church.
You all right, Hannah?
Good enough. We're at Zvi and Benina.
inside the church. The priest is our contact.
Fine. And the children?
Only 15 left.
Please said there were 30.
Only 15 left, Hannah. The priest thinks the Nazis have spotted the others. We have to work fast.
When?
Tonight.
Where?
There's a river or a lake, I don't know which. There'll be 4 rowboats, 4 pairs of oars. We divide the children in the boats. Hannah, it means we're still separated.
Dov, so long as we get the children out.
Sure.
Will 3 bring the children?
3 and the priest. Panina will wait with us.
It's fine.
Hannah.
Yes, Dov?
You're not pretty. Not really, that is.
Dov?
Yes?
Thank you. We were worried.
Your load safe?
In the woods. Children, this way. No talking. Go toward the flashlight in the woods.
Panina, all right?
Yes, and so is Dov. The children are with us. See, what's wrong?
Hannah, there are 2 little girls on the other side.
In God's name, see, why didn't you wait for them?
My arm. I fell. I couldn't go back. Hannah, don't do it. Come back, Hannah.
I'm not back in half an hour. Tell Dov to go out.
Hannah, come back.
Half hour, please. Don't forget.
Clock ticking, like a heart beating for 112, for 113. You knew they would catch you, Hannah. We saw the lights. We heard the shots. We knew. Hannah, I think the children are safe. But why did you go back? Didn't you know that once the children were safe, we'd come after you? Yes. We weren't very lucky either. We were 424, 25. We were told they had taken you to Budapest. We had to follow. They caught us outside the town of Szeged.
You 3, inside the truck.
Guard, did you hear anything of another Palestinian?
A girl. About my height.
I heard. Inside the truck.
Is she all right?
For now, yes. She shot a soldier. For now, she's all right.
What are they going to do to her?
What do you think? Inside the truck. You'll see her soon enough. All right, driver, they're in.
They do to you? Nothing. They let me see her.
Hannah?
Yes.
Is she?
Tomorrow.
It's my fault.
No, sir. No, it's not your fault. It was hard to talk to her. Every tooth in her mouth was gone. Her teeth were nice, weren't they, Svi?
God said they'd accept the plea for clemency.
She told me. She told them clemency was for criminals.
Yes. Yes, sure.
She says they haven't treated her too badly. Some try to be decent.
She say anything else?
Not much. Just that she's glad the children were rescued.
Yes. Sure. Children were rescued. Sure.
We could hear it. 3 shots. Just 3 shots. Then nothing. Like a clock ticking. Like a heart beating. 438. 39. Counting the drops. Nothing to do but count the drops. 43. 44. 45. 46. 47. 48. 49. 50. 51. 52.
coming out a bit now, Lieutenant.
Thank you, Doctor.
I wouldn't make him talk too much.
Oh, no, of course not. Joe Nathanson, it's Lieutenant Hardy. You're all right now.
See? Pen enough?
They're fine.
I'm glad.
You mustn't talk too much now. In a short time, there will be a plane to take you home to Palestine.
That's good. Lieutenant, I want to go home soon.
Yes?
Make it soon. Perhaps in time for Hanukkah.
Dove, you're not to talk.
I want to tell them of Hannah Finish.
I'll try to.
Lieutenant, she was a lantern in the Inferno.
Yes. She was a lantern in the Inferno.
Many places these last 8 days, the Hanukkah candles of the Feast of Light have burned very brightly. Here in Palestine, the lamps were kindled from Upper Galilee down through Beersheba and Gaza and south of the Egyptian border. But I think that nowhere have the lamps burned so brightly as in our own cooperative colony of Sdot Yam. While in the rest of Palestine, the candles were lighted to commemorate the ancient exploits of the Maccabees, here in the colony of Sdot Yam, our candles burned also for another Maccabee, a girl called Hannah Senish, who was one of us, and who died that others might live.
If you would like a free copy of the script just heard, including the talk which follows immediately, write to The Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. And now we present Dr. Felix A. Levy of Emmanuel Congregation of Chicago, Illinois. Speaking from Chicago, Dr. Levy.
Yes, Hannah Senish was a Maccabee. We glory in her valor and self-sacrifice. Every Jew worthy of the name must be ready for heroism. This is implied in being a Jew, and this heroic strand runs clearly and brightly through our history. Its pages are crowded with thousands of men and women like Hannah. Jews and Jewesses have always died, that their fellows might live and the Jewish faith remain undefiled. Not that we enjoy the suffering and the agony that seems to be our preordained lot, or that we feed on the martyr complex that the world's treatment of us has engendered. We would gladly do away with the necessity of the sacrifice of Hannah, but we cannot. The world will not permit us the luxury of living free and untrammeled, or even as welcome guests. Israel in our literature is often compared to light, to an olive, and Israel's good deeds to fine oil. The application of these parallels is evident. I read in the most recent work on Plato that the latter's hero, Socrates, had to die, for he lived in a world that had no place for a man of his kind. Thoughtful Christians sometimes make the same statement about the central figure of their religion and predict that were he come back to earth, say on Christmas 1945, he would again be crucified. With equally keen insight, but with no yielding to despair, our fathers appreciated the role of Israel in the world, the anomaly of a God-fearing, righteous people among idolaters, who not only repudiated God and morality, but shed one another's blood. Hence the sages said that like the olive, Israel had to be crushed before it would yield the fine oil of character. The furnace of affliction had to burn away the dross in its soul, so that the finer gold might be produced. Israel's unfortunate experiences, instead of destroying as it might have the moral fiber of the people, tended to make it more heroic, more noble. The bestial receded and the godlike came to the fore. It is neither poetic fancy nor arrogant chauvinism that makes Israel the suffering servant of mankind. It is history that does this. It is Israel's actual experience that makes the hero of the nations a nation of heroes. The light of the Maccabean festival will shine forever, says ancient lore, implying that emancipation must always be fought for. The Jew struggles, therefore, not only to save his life, he is compelled to do so in every age and clime. His sacrifice is eloquent testimony of man's inhumanity to man, but in his very effort and in the tragedy of his death, he snatches victory for a cause precious to all men and rouses whatever conscience the world may still have. The Jew, the feast of the Maccabees, the heroism of men and women such as Hannes Fenish, all point to one fact: the right of every person of every group to live according to its conscience, to determine its own destiny. Because of the divine image impressed upon him, Israel remains forever the dauntless champion of the supreme value of every man.
Thank you, Rabbi Levy. Eternal Light is written by Morton Wishenbrad. Today's drama was based on an article which appeared in the Hebrew publication Hador. The music was composed by Morris Momorsky and conducted by Milton Catons. Carl Malden was featured as Dov, and Charlotte Holland was heard in the role of Hannah. The soloist was cantor David Potterman. The entire production was under the direction of Frank Patt. This program is a feature of the National Broadcasting Company and comes to you each week at the same time under the auspices of the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. Copies of the script may be obtained without cost by writing to the Eternal Light, 3080 Broadway, New York 27, New York. This is the National Broadcasting Company.